Hi guys, it's Kelly here and I'm back with another video for Honeybee Stamps. Today's video is featuring a sneak peek of our upcoming release, which is called Field Foundry. And today I am using a stencil and die set called Refined Details. I'm also going to be using a sentiment set that's in the upcoming release called Well Played Sir, which I think is an adorable name. So I am using a grip mat here. I'm just using Nina regular solar 80-pound cardstock. That's what I normally use for my coloring. So that's what the majority of my white cardstock is. And then I'm just going to lay down each stencil. There are 6 in this set. And if you've never worked with Honeybee stencils before, one of the really nice things about them is that they are clear, but they're also etched. So you can see where to line your things up and where the other elements are going to sit on your card. This one also has the dies that go with it. So the glasses, the hat, the pipe, and the mustache, you can all die cut out of them. So I'm going in and I'm doing the glasses on my full background with speckled egg. And then I am going to get another piece of cardstock, and this is going to be for just the elements that I want to die cut out. So I've cleaned off the stencil, and then I am just going in, and I think I did 2 pairs of sunglasses, or 2 pairs of eyeglasses, sunglasses, what are we calling them? I don't know, I guess they could be either. So I did those first, and then I'm going to move on back to this main one. I'm not going to show you the stenciling for each individual one, for the ones I'm going to die cut, because it's the same thing as the background and it's just easier to see on the background. So this second one, another thing about Honeybee stencils is it'll tell you right at the top what it is. So whether it's the hat brims or the lenses, it'll tell you exactly what they are. This one in particular is the pipes and hat details, and so I have used some low-tack tape. In this case I'm using mint tape to mask off the pipes because I want those to be brown, but I wanted the detail on the hat to be red. So I also like to add a lot of dimension to my stenciling. This is probably not for everybody, but if you would like to achieve more dimension in your stenciling, this is a great way to do it. I just use multiple colors. So in this case I used Candied Apple, Fire Brick, and Aged Mahogany, and I shaded them as if the back left is darker because the way that the hat is drawn, the front right is going to get the most light. Then I'm going to take that stencil off. I'm going to clean all of that red off of it, not just the front, also the back, because sometimes that ink can seep through while we're cleaning. And then I'm going to just kind of dry it. It looks very quick, like I'm just flapping it in the wind. But it's because it's a little bit sped up. And then I'll put the same stencil back down. This is still the pipe and hat details. Now this time I'm going to mask all of the hat bands, and then I'll be able to go in and do the pipes. So there's a couple of different brown combinations in here just to make things a little bit more interesting. For the pipes, I used the brushed corduroy, and then I'm going to add some detail with the gathered twigs. I use mostly warm browns, honestly, because I think they look better with that blue or blue-green color. I think probably because blue is orange's natural complement, so they look nicer together. But anywho, so then once I've got those down, I can go ahead and remove those masks and then remove the stencil. And then for the next layer, this is going to be I think this is the hat bands. Oh no, this is where, okay, so I didn't add any dimension to the first layer of the glasses. I just did the speckled egg. And then this is where that etched detail kind of comes in handy, because I was able to go back in, line it up exactly where it needed to go, and then add a little bit more shading with some Mermaid Lagoon, because I picked up the lenses. This is the first time I'm using it, just like it's the first time you guys are seeing it. So I picked up the lenses and realized that I wasn't going to be coloring the the frames, I was going to be coloring the lenses. And so I wanted to make sure that I had a little bit more detail. So now the base of the glasses is the speckled egg and the mermaid lagoon. The lenses are going to be the uncharted mariner. And again, it's just because I like that blue-green with the browns. I think red is a nice accent color. Orange would be really good too. And then once we have that done, we will move on to the top of the hat is separate from the bottom of the hat. And the top of the hat, this also is, I started off with that brushed corduroy going in, and then I will add the shading with gathered twigs and also ground espresso. So this one I think also has the detail for the pipes. I think maybe, let me just double check. I just made it today. You think I would be able to remember, but apparently I can't. Yes, it does. It has the inside of the pipe, and then also where the base of the pipe connects to like the mouthpiece, it has that little detail layer as well, which is really where I used the gathered or the ground espresso. That's the darker one, so that the inside of the pipe looks more inset. It helps to have it a darker color. For the brim, I'm actually going to start with a lighter color, which is this old paper. And I'm going to lay that down. And then that way, the tippy tip of the edge of the brim of the hat, which is going to be on the right-hand side, will have a really nice light shade of brown. And that's going to help it to look more dimensional as well. And then I just worked through all of the other colors, adding my shading to the brim, concentrating the darker color to the back left, leaving the lighter color to the top right. And then I also use that ground espresso for the middle section. It kind of looks like a mini pipe itself, or like a little comma, but it's actually like where the hat dips down, which I think is a really nice detail to add. So then the last layer is kind of where all of my black details are going to be. I'm doing the mustache and the mouthpiece of the tobacco pipe. This background is giving me like it's obviously kind of more like old school gentlemanly with the fedora and the pipe and the mustache, but it's also giving me like Clue, like old school detective vibes, which I really love. I loved that movie. It was such a good movie. And then to make the mustaches look just a little bit different, I did go over that black with the ground espresso. And then you guys know me, I can never leave well enough alone. I like to add all the extra details. So for the ones that we are going to die cut, I am going to go in with my markers and do a little bit of no line coloring. This is just going to help give them a little bit more dimension and help them stand out as being a little more extra, so that the background feels like a background and the other elements feel like they're a little bit extra special. So I did add the shading to the hat band again, because I did my shading where everything's kind of darker to the back left. I colored it the same way. Same thing with my pipe. I added the darker shading where it would be inset, but then also towards the bottom of the pipe. For the rest of the hat, I honestly, like the pipe I used the E20s family, and I had intended on using the E50s family for the hat, but I couldn't find my E59, so I just substituted the E29. It worked just fine. But again, just going over, adding those kind of darker details and then blending out for the lightest section to be on the right hand side. And honestly, I didn't even cover everything. Like I let the like the ink blending still like be the lightest portion. For the mustache, I am adding a true black toward the bottom, and this will be the same thing for the mouthpiece for the pipe. And then I just went over that with a C7 to kind of bring everything together and make it a really nice solid black. For the glasses, I wanted to do like a blue green that was more on the blue side because that was like what was going to match my cardstock. So I went in with a B99 and then went in with a BG49. And it was still coming off as really kind of too green. For the lenses, I added the shading to the bottom left and a little bit to the right. And then for the shading of the actual frames, I added the darker shading underneath. And you can see how much dimension that gives. If you are struggling with getting your markers to blend, maybe they're a little bit too far away from each other, even though this BG45 and the BG49 are together in the same color family for Copic markers, in smaller areas, they are a little bit more difficult to blend. So you could just see there the tip to tip method to come up with a like a middle color. And then this was reading a little bit too green, so in order to offset that, I went right over top of everything with a mid-tone blue, which was a B97. And then here's all of the little die cuts. I'm lining these up. In order to make sure everything's lined up, I use the little holes that we would like poke the die through. I use those as a guideline to make sure I can't see any white, to make sure everything is lined up. And then I just die cut these out. Here I have my like teal cardstock. I know that that's going to be my base. Pro tip, if you're cheap, cut your middle pieces out, like the top layering pieces. I'm using this Art Deco. It's on my it's just like living on my desk and I can't stop using it. But anyway, I'm going to cut that out of the main piece that I'm going to use as my background, because all you're going to see is the edges. And then I don't have to cut a whole other piece. I'll be able to conserve that cardstock. So I looked at this landscape wise, didn't really love it. So I flipped it back around to a portrait. I did like that much better. And then my intention is to put my sentiment in the middle and accent that with my, colored die cut pieces. I really like the sentiments in this one. I chose Today to the Man Who Does Everything. And then on the inside, you could put Happy Retirement or Happy Birthday or, any of those things. And that also has a die that goes with it that I will be using. So in case you are unaware, the upcoming release is actually going to be February 19th, the evening of February 19th at, I think it's 8 p.m. here on the Honeybee channel. I have plans for this with a different idea for the live on Wednesday. So hopefully you can join us. The live is now only on the Honeybee channel and it will be on Wednesday at 1 p.m. Eastern time. And I have a different idea for how to use this. I'm going to use the background, but then I'm going to pair it with something else. So there'll be another little sneak peek if you're interested in seeing that. Here, what I'm doing is I'm actually just cleaning up my white edges. So I'm just taking the markers and going around the edge. The hat that you just saw me do, I actually had it like facing towards me. I would highly recommend doing this from the back side so that if your marker slips, you don't accidentally put this long streak of color right through all of the coloring that you just did. But we do want to clean up those white edges so that we can't see them. And then from there, it's just construction. So I'm just gluing down my background to this piece of teal cardstock. I like to turn mine at a diagonal so that way I can see 3 of the sides. And then I will glue the white piece. So this is, you guys know, mats on mats on mats, how that works. I do love a good mat. So I'm gluing the white to the teal, and then here I'm just going to lay this here because my intention is to pop this up, but I want to make sure that I get my elements on in a way that's going to be balanced in my card design. And so I'm putting my hat kind of like cocked on the side up there at the top with this cute little mustache. And then in the bottom, I'm going to do the little glasses and the pipe. And then our sentiment will be in the middle. You could stamp the sentiment directly onto this white die cut piece, but I'm gonna be honest with you, I wasn't 100% sure about which sentiment was going to fit the nicest in that space, so that's why I chose to die cut mine so that way I could swap it out if I needed to. I am going to put in just a little bit of shadow underneath my die cuts. You guys know how I feel about elements that are just kind of like floating in space. So in order to give this a bit more of a dimensional look and help them to be a bit more grounded, I'm just using a C3 and a C1 in order to help it kind of blend seamlessly into that white. I'm just going to hit the edges with my colorless blender. And then I can glue my sentiment right there into the center. Something to note, oh here, because I moved that little pipe around, I did have some adhesive. The irony of me cleaning up that a little bit of adhesive so that it was nice and clean for what is about to happen here in just a moment. So because we are doing these with dye inks, with distress inks, it can be reactivated with water. Here I'm just adding a little bit of foam tape so that I can pop it up. So distress inks, dye inks, they can be reactivated with any sort of moisture. And you guys know that I do love a glitter. I do love a glitter, a shimmer, a rhinestone, a pearl. I love them all. And so just because this is a quote unquote boy card does not mean that I'm not going to add some shimmers to it. But I colored them, but I like completely forgot that there was distress ink underneath it. And so on my pipe, I did get a little bit of the black into the background. Now I was able to go in and fix that up with, just my Copic markers, but just something to note, you want to make sure that you don't move those around. So that's it. That's the whole card. I hope you guys are as excited about this release as I am, and I will catch you on the next video. Bye.